Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday, January 4th, 2016. What a difference a new year makes. An Arctic blast has arrived in the mid-Atlantic region. It'll keep temperatures way below normal for the next 48 hours or so. In fact, overnight lows will drop way down into the teens in the I-95 corridor. There can be scattered snow flurries from late morning on through the afternoon into the evening, even into the I-95 corridor. Numerous snow showers expected up in the mountains of northern and western Pennsylvania, northern and western Virginia, and West Virginia as well, as this Arctic air pushes into the region. This Arctic chill will ease somewhat later this week. Moisture will push into the northeastern part of the country by the end of the week. It should fall as a form of rain on Friday and Saturday, but next week has all kinds of potential. Much colder air will be headed our way for the middle of next week. There are signs of a major coastal storm early to middle part of next week. Next week is full of potential. We'll kind of touch upon that later on in the video discussion. Let's first start off with the near term. This is the latest radar loop. You see all these bands showing up here across eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and even out towards Chicago. These are snow showers, excuse me, pushing in off the Great Lakes into those areas. And again, there can be some snow showers pushing southeastward over the Poconos, for example, across the central mountains of Pennsylvania, and even some scattered flurries can make it here into the I-95 corridor from late morning on through the afternoon into the evening. Winds will gust up to 30 miles per hour or so, and as temperatures drop tonight into the teens, those wind chills will drop to near zero, even in the big cities along I-95 later on tonight and into the early part of Tuesday morning. Well, let's take a look at a couple of GFS forecast maps for later this afternoon and then later tonight before we start looking at ahead to next week. And again, next week has an explosive look to it. This is the forecast map for early this afternoon from last night's 0Z GFS model run. An Arctic high pressure centered later today over the northern Great Lakes region. Just a screaming wind out of the north up and down the I-95 corridor. Again, a true Arctic air mass. What do I mean by a true Arctic air mass? This, if you follow the trajectories backwards in time, this air certainly originates in the Arctic region. There are some scattered snow showers depicted here in green by the GFS model, and again, in the Ohio Valley and western part of the Mid-Atlantic region. But again, there can be some scattered flurries even in the big cities later on this morning, this afternoon, into the early evening hours. Let's now jump ahead to the forecast map for just after midnight. And here we go, after midnight, still a stiff wind here, and that will cause wind chill values to drop to near zero in many areas in the I-95 corridor. Continuation of quite breezy and very cold conditions, the coldest temperatures of the year so far, with temperatures way down into the teens, even in the big cities by tomorrow morning. Again, a very cold day on Tuesday. Then the Arctic chill eases somewhat later this week, and moisture will ride up out of the Gulf of Mexico into the northeast, and at first it'll be warm enough for just rain on Friday and Saturday. But let's now jump ahead to next week, beginning about Sunday next week. It has all kinds of potential associated with it. Well, in terms of the longer term, let's first take a look at the Arctic Oscillation Index. The forecast is in red right here, and we've talked about this in the past several days, past several postings. The fact that the Arctic Oscillation is headed into negative territory, indeed is already in negative territory, and it looks like it'll stay there for the next couple of weeks. The significance of that is that usually indicates high latitude blocking, and by that I mean strong high pressure throughout the atmosphere, especially the upper part of the atmosphere, places like Greenland and eastern Canada. And when that happens, high latitude blocking up around the polar regions, that tends to force cold air masses southward into the northeastern part of the U.S. And if it's sustained in negative territory, we could have some more sustained cold. And in fact, that certainly looks like that is the case here from next week on. It looks very interesting. Lots of cold air outbreaks with multiple snow threats coming to the northeastern part of the country. Well, we have the Arctic Oscillation already in negative territory. It looks like it'll stay that way for the next couple of weeks. High latitude blocking is typically the result, and what we're looking at now is a height anomaly, the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast map for next Monday, a week from right now, next Monday, January 11th. This is from the Canadian ensemble run. The Canadian model tends to do quite a good job when the pattern changes to cold, when cold air is advancing into your region. Canadian model over the years has done quite well, and it is really emphasizing the cold air outbreaks for next week and beyond. Again, this is the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern for 1 week from now. The blues here in the eastern half of the nation represent lower height anomalies compared to normal. In other words, deep upper level trough setting up here, and again, there can be a major coastal storm with this type of upper level pattern anytime early next week or to the middle part of next week. Notice the oranges up here across Canada, and this is Greenland right here. This is high latitude blocking showing up here. That's what higher pressures than normal in the polar regions, and again, that tends to shunt the cold air into the eastern part of the nation. Look at the trajectory here. If you follow these black lines here, the air is coming right out of extreme northern Canada, the North Pole region, right into the upper part of the Midwest, and then it slides into the east. Not shown on here, we have a centrally based El Nino to the south and west here in the tropical Pacific. That is adding fuel to the fire in the southern branch of the jet stream, and it will certainly induce some Gulf storms to head towards the East Coast beginning early next week. Well, let's just push ahead here and see how this changes from, again, the Canadian ensemble run of the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern for next week. We keep moving along here, and notice, if anything, that trough intensifies here in the upper part of the atmosphere. High latitude blocking continues. This is next Monday night. Let's move ahead here, and here by Tuesday morning, quite a vigorous looking upper level low pressure area, and again, high latitude blocking continues. This is full of potential for next week here in the eastern part of the nation. Well, one final tease for next week before we end this video discussion. This is the forecast map from last night's 0Z operational GFS model for next Wednesday, January 13th. And indeed, it has cold air in the northeastern part of the country, and in fact, showing some snow right here, but with the Great Lakes type system, another clipper that is going to usher in very cold air for the middle and latter part of next week. And notice here it has a low pressure area off the east coast. Lots of Gulf moisture remaining down there, and low pressure off the east coast. This is from the operational GFS. Let's now take a look at the parallel version of the GFS. And here we go. This is the same time frame we just looked at. Next Wednesday morning, January 13th, the parallel version of the GFS. This is a version of the model that has had some updates recently. It's not the operational version yet. It becomes that later on this year. But certainly just want to point out the potential exists for a system like this early to middle part of next week. This is a major coastal storm, a potential big snowmaker for a good part of the northeastern U.S. come the middle part of next week. So very volatile pattern setting up for next week, Sunday and beyond. Stay tuned to VencoreWeather.com, and we'll monitor it closely over the next several days. That's it for now. For VencoreWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.